Have you ever asked yourself, why do I feel anxious when the doorbell rings? Why does the sound of footsteps approaching your sanctuary trigger not excitement but dread? You smile, you nod, you open the door, but inside something retreats. Something whispers, "This is not what I want right now." Most people don't talk about this. They don't admit that beneath the polite surface there's a quiet storm of discomfort. It's not because you're cold, it's not because you're unfriendly, and it's certainly not because you hate people. The truth is harder to explain and much harder for others to understand. What if your instinct to avoid visitors is not a social flaw, but a sign of something deeply psychological? Something that Carl Jung, the father of analytical psychology, believed was part of your inner development. You see, not everyone thrives in constant connection. Not everyone recharges through conversation. For some, the mere presence of another person in their space feels like an invasion of the soul, like a disruption of a fragile, invisible rhythm. And that's not something you can easily explain to someone standing at your door with a smile and expectations. You might wonder, am I broken for needing this much solitude? Am I selfish for preferring my inner world to small talk and surface noise? But what if the opposite is true? What if this sensitivity is not a weakness, but a sign of depth, of boundaries forming around something sacred? What if your discomfort isn't rejection of others, but a reflection of how carefully you protect your peace? In this video, we'll explore 6 psychological truths rooted in Jung's philosophy that reveal why some people simply don't like having visitors, and why that discomfort may be a mirror reflecting your most authentic self. So, if you've ever felt guilty for not answering the door or exhausted by casual drop-ins, stay with us. Because what feels like a social oddity may actually be a spiritual doorway to a deeper, more aligned version of who you truly are. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your experience in the comments. Do you also feel a wave of resistance when someone wants to just stop by? I'd love to know, what does your solitude mean to you? Have you ever asked yourself why certain people, no matter how kind they are, feel like a weight on your nervous system the moment they step through your door? Why is it that even a well-meaning visit can suddenly feel like a violation of something sacred, something invisible but real? You're not being cold, you're not overreacting. What you're feeling is something many people sense, but don't have the words to explain. Because it's not just about people entering your space, it's about how their energy enters your field. According to Carl Jung, every individual carries a psychic atmosphere, an invisible emotional field shaped by their unresolved patterns, unconscious tensions, and dominant archetypes. When someone walks into your home, they bring that energy with them. And depending on where you are in your inner journey, your body and psyche will respond, sometimes in ways even you don't understand. You may feel your shoulders tighten, your breathing may be shallow, a strange irritability may rise in your chest. But beneath all of that is one core truth. Your energy knows, it senses, it detects subtle disharmony long before your mind catches up. And if you're someone who's been healing, growing and peeling back layers of conditioning, your sensitivity to this becomes even sharper. You're not just reacting to the person in front of you. You're responding to what they carry with them, unprocessed emotions, unconscious projections, and expectations they don't even realize they're placing on you. And your body, like an instrument, vibrates with that signal. Jung would say, this is the power of the unconscious at work. Not everything that affects us is visible. In fact, most of what truly disturbs our peace lies beneath the surface. So ask yourself, Have you ever felt heavy after someone leaves your home, even though they did nothing wrong? Have you ever had to recenter, reorganize, even cleanse your space, not out of superstition, but because their presence left a residue on your spirit? That's not a flaw. That's your awareness speaking. It means your energetic boundaries are active, alert, and trying to protect something within you that's becoming more whole. What if your discomfort isn't a problem to fix, but a compass to follow? What if the real issue isn't that you're too sensitive, but that you've spent a lifetime ignoring the truth your nervous system has always tried to whisper? Could it be that your reactions are not signs of weakness, but signals of transformation? Let that sink in and let us know in the comments. Have you ever felt this invisible drain when someone enters your space? Do you sense your body shifting even before a single word is spoken? Have you ever noticed how drained you feel after certain people leave your home, even if the visit seemed friendly? It's as if their presence left an invisible weight in the room, a disturbance in the atmosphere that only you can sense. You smile, you talk, you host with grace, but once they leave, you feel like you need hours or even days to recover. Why is that? Why does something as simple as a conversation or a visit take such a toll on your nervous system? This is not just social fatigue. According to Jung, what you are experiencing is energetic displacement. Every interaction is an exchange of psychic energy, and not all energies enter your space with kindness or respect. Some carry projections, some bring their own chaos, and others unknowingly awaken dormant tensions within you. When someone enters your home, they don't just bring their body, they bring their thoughts, their moods, their unresolved pain. And if you're a sensitive person or someone who has been through deep emotional healing, you feel it all. You absorb what others repress. In Jungian psychology, the home is a symbolic extension of the self. It's where your unconscious finally feels safe enough to soften, where your soul comes out of hiding, where your nervous system recalibrates from the noise of the world. So, when a visitor walks through your door, your psyche evaluates much more than the conversation. It scans for emotional intrusion. It listens for hidden agendas. It notices when someone isn't grounded or when their words don't match their energy. Your discomfort isn't always about the person. It's about the invisible baggage they bring in. This is why Jung emphasized the importance of boundaries, not just physical, but psychological. He taught that many people unknowingly become vessels for projection. When they speak to you, they are often speaking to the parts of themselves they haven't accepted, and in doing so, they may unknowingly push you into a role you never agreed to play. A caretaker, a mirror, a container for their emotional weight. And this is the deeper reality. When you say you don't like having visitors, you might not be rejecting connection. You might be protecting your clarity. You're not antisocial. You're energetically aware. You feel the undercurrents others overlook. You notice when a smile is masking pain, when conversation feels like noise, when presence turns into pressure. This kind of sensitivity is not a weakness, it's an awakening. It's your unconscious telling you that your energy matters, your space is sacred, your peace is non-negotiable. So, let me ask you something. What if you stopped apologizing for needing that peace? What if your desire to be alone isn't isolation, but integration? What if your discomfort around visitors is your soul's way of saying, don't let in what you've worked so hard to cleanse out? Comment below if you've ever felt this tension, the silent exhaustion after hosting, the unexplained urge to be alone again, the sense that not all visits are equal. I'd love to know. Have you ever felt like someone brought more than just themselves into your home? It's not something we're taught to notice. Most people assume that hospitality is a virtue, and that refusing to welcome others into your space is a form of coldness or social dysfunction. But what if the discomfort isn't personal, it's energetic? Have you ever walked into a room after someone left and felt like something heavy still lingered in the air? Or cleaned your house, not because it was dirty, but because it felt off? This is not your imagination. According to Jungian psychology, every human being carries a unique field of psychic energy. When two people come into contact, especially in an enclosed, symbolic space like the home, their energies begin to interact, exchange, and even clash. It's not just about conversation or behavior, it's about presence, vibration, frequency. And if your own inner world is in a state of delicate healing or reorganization, then the wrong energetic presence can feel like emotional sandpaper. Carl Jung taught that we are not just rational beings. We are symbolic, emotional, and deeply unconscious creatures. And energy is one of the most overlooked aspects of our relational lives. Some people bring calm, others bring chaos. Some lift the room, others pull it down. And your body knows before your mind does. Your skin tightens, your breath shortens. You suddenly feel like cleaning or retreating. That's your unconscious reading the atmosphere. The walls of your home may be solid, but your psyche is porous. It absorbs, it reacts, it remembers. And when you ignore those subtle signals, you pay the price in fatigue, irritability, or anxiety without knowing why. The visit ends, but your nervous system keeps working over time. It's not that you dislike people, it's that your soul requires a cleaner kind of presence, a gentler rhythm, an energy that doesn't ask you to perform, please, or explain. This is why healing isn't just about inner work, it's about outer discernment. The people you let into your space are not just visiting your home, they're visiting your energy field. And if you're in a season of rebuilding yourself from the inside out, then it makes perfect sense that you would become more selective, more protective, more attuned. This is not emotional weakness. It is a sign of psychological maturity. Jung called this process individuation, the sacred unfolding of your unique self, which requires both solitude and boundary. So, the next time you hesitate before saying yes to a visit, pause and ask, is it love that motivates me, or guilt? Is it a connection or an obligation? Does this person bring peace, or do they shatter it the moment they enter? You are allowed to protect your healing. You are allowed to let your space breathe. You are allowed to listen to your instincts. Not every knock at the door deserves an open invitation, and sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to leave the door gently closed. Have you ever asked yourself why you still feel tense even when the guests are gone? Why, even in the quiet that follows, does something inside you not fully relax? You try to return to yourself, to your book, your tea, your thoughts, but the atmosphere feels unsettled. The room is empty, but it's not really yours again yet. This subtle disturbance is not just about social fatigue, it is about the performance that took place while they were there. Because for many people, especially those walking the path of healing, the visit isn't just a gathering, it's a stage. And on that stage, you perform safety, you perform friendliness, you perform with composure, you smile when you want stillness, you nod when you want space, you entertain when you want a retreat. And the moment the door opens to let someone in, a part of you disappears. Not because you want to lie, but because somewhere along the way, you learned that being yourself might not be enough. This is the invisible burden of pretending at home, of being the good host while your inner world is begging for solitude, of swallowing your discomfort for the sake of being polite. dimming your needs so others feel more comfortable in your space. And over time, this kind of psychic splitting takes its toll. You stop looking forward to weekends. You stop inviting joy into your space. You feel more like the caretaker of a showroom than the inhabitant of a sanctuary. And slowly, you begin to disappear in your own home. Carl Jung warned us of this, that the persona, the mask we wear to function in society, can become dangerous when we confuse it with who we really are. The problem isn't that you show a different version of yourself to others. That's human. The problem is when you feel you have to hide your true self just to keep the peace. Jung called this betrayal of the inner self a form of psychological disintegration. The soul fragments under the pressure of too much should. I should open the door, I should be kind, I should be available. But each is a brick in the wall between you and your inner truth. And eventually, even your own home no longer feels safe because you're not allowed to be real in it. So ask yourself, what roles are you still playing in your own sanctuary? What parts of you go silent the moment someone else enters? Why do you apologize for your silence, your need for space, your longing for sacred solitude? And what would it feel like to stop performing, even just a little? What would it feel like to live in a space that didn't ask you to entertain, to smile on cue, to dim your intuition? The healing begins when you reclaim your space, not just physically, but symbolically, when your home becomes a reflection of your truth, not a museum of false peace, when you stop pretending to be okay with things that exhaust your nervous system. Because the moment you honor your discomfort is the moment your energy starts to return. Not everyone deserves access to your sacred ground, and the ones who do will not ask you to perform in the place where you are meant to rest. What if the need for solitude isn't something you should fix, but something you should finally listen to? In a world that praises sociability, where being constantly reachable is a sign of being a good person, where hospitality is expected even when you are depleted, how often do you betray your own inner state just to seem kind? Let's get honest. Have you ever said yes to a visit when everything in your body was saying no? Have you ever cleaned the house in a rush, forced small talk, served tea, nodded politely, only to collapse afterward, feeling like a ghost in your own skin? This isn't about being unfriendly. This is about the high cost of constantly overriding your internal truth to meet external expectations. Carl Jung warned us of this exact danger, the gradual erosion of the self under the pressure of performance. In Jungian psychology, the self is the totality of who you are. Your conscious identity, your hidden truths, your soul's voice, your unexpressed instincts. But when you sacrifice that self at the altar of social obligation too often, something inside you starts to fracture. Jung said, "We meet ourselves time and again in 1,000 disguises on the path of life." What if this resistance to visitors isn't a flaw, but a disguise lifting? What if the tension you feel when someone enters your space is not rudeness, but a boundary waking up? There's a strange kind of grief in always being available, a slow, invisible kind of suffering. You lose the quiet moments that connect you to your inner world. You lose the unfiltered thoughts, the deep sighs, the sacred pause that allows your nervous system to exhale. That's why some people feel violated, not physically but emotionally, when someone enters their space without permission. It's not the guest that hurts you. It's the loss of the inner sanctuary you built to survive. And every unexpected knock on the door can feel like a disruption of something holy. But here's the deeper truth Jung points us toward. Solitude is not the absence of connection. It is the presence of self. It is the fertile soil in which the psyche grows, rearranges, and breathes. When someone interrupts that process, no matter how kind or harmless they seem, it can feel like an invasion. And the more trauma you've had to survive, the more you may have turned your space into a protective cocoon. That's not dysfunction. That's your nervous system remembering what it feels like to be safe. So ask yourself honestly, who taught you that saying no makes you a bad person? Who made you feel guilty for choosing stillness over socializing? Why do you feel like you have to explain your desire to be left alone? What if your discomfort with visitors isn't an emotional weakness, but a soul signal? What if you're not withdrawing from the world, but returning to yourself? Maybe the door you don't want to open isn't just your front door, it's the inner door you've guarded for years. And now, finally, you're realizing you don't owe anyone the key. So tell me in the comments, do you feel more like yourself when you're alone than when you're with others? And if so, when did you first begin to notice that truth? But here is the deeper truth that no one told you. Solitude is not the absence of love, it is the reclamation of it. The moment you stopped opening your door to everyone, you began opening the door to yourself. And maybe, for the first time in your life, you're realizing that what you used to call emptiness is actually space. A space where your own voice can echo, where your nervous system can breathe, where the soul, long drowned out by noise, finally whispers back. Have you noticed how the silence no longer scares you but soothes you? How do you no longer feel the need to perform small talk or entertain someone's emotional clutter? There is a sacred clarity that arrives when you no longer let every knock on the door interrupt your peace. This clarity doesn't come from bitterness. It comes from boundaries, from slowly realizing that your energy is your home, and not everyone deserves the key. Carl Jung believed that healing begins when we turn inward, and this turning is not dramatic or loud. It is quiet, gradual, and deeply intimate. It is the woman who sits on her couch alone on a Saturday night, not because no one called her, but because she finally stopped chasing noise. It is the woman who makes tea for one and smiles into the steam, not because she gave up on love, but because she learned to love differently, more truthfully, without abandoning herself to be chosen. You see, solitude is not just about being alone, it's about no longer leaking yourself to feel connected. It's about no longer performing safety in environments that exhaust you. And when you choose solitude, not as a defense mechanism, but as a conscious return to yourself, you start to sense something miraculous. The world responds differently. The chaos slows down. The wrong people drift away. And the right people, those who respect your boundaries, who feel like peace, not pressure, begin to appear. This is the paradox. The less you seek to be understood by everyone, the more deeply you understand yourself. The less you try to explain your solitude, the more it speaks for itself. People sense it. Not everyone will understand, and that's okay. Some will say you've changed. Some will say you're distant. Let them, because what they're really saying is that you've stopped bending, you've stopped leaking, you've stopped abandoning your sacred space. And perhaps that is the greatest love story of all, not being saved by someone who knocks on your door, but by the version of you who finally chose not to answer, not out of fear, not out of anger, but out of a profound, quiet truth that your soul is no longer available for anything less than peace. If this touched something sacred inside you, don't let it fade into silence. Like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Your presence here is not just support, it's resonance. And if you feel moved to give back, your donation becomes a quiet but powerful gesture that helps keep this light alive for others still walking in the dark.